So please, without further ado, welcome to the panel, Mr. Dean Cain.
Good afternoon.
Still morning in California time.
Absolutely, it is. Wow, I'm surprised so many of you are out here so early. On a Sunday here in costume, I see you guys for sure. Wow. Jason, nice to see you, sir. That's Jason from Halloween, so it's my one shot to say hi to him before you.
You were worried that there would only be 7 people.
Well, I thought, it's Sunday, it's slow. Everybody's going through the weekend. I thought there might be 7 people here. And I'm very, very happy that there are more than 7.
We knew it would be full. We knew.
That's outstanding.
So I understand the weekend's gone well. You met another Superman, Mr. Brandon Routh.
Yes. I've known Brandon for a long time. We've been friends for a long time. But I didn't realize this is, really next door to his hometown, which was great. I got to meet his folks. And it's pretty cool. I guess 2 Supermen are from Iowa. Is that right? George Reeves and young Brandon.
You played basketball with Brandon Routh?
Yeah, but Brandon and I played basketball for the last, probably 5 to 10 years, something like that.
Can you take him? Or is he easy to beat?
He's tall. He gets a lot of rebounds.
You played high school baseball with a couple of guys, one named Charlie Sheen and
as a matter of fact,
Rob Lowe. Tell us about that. Were they any good at baseball?
Well, Charlie was better than Rob at baseball, for sure. But Rob had the edge when it came to women. He's pretty. He's very, very pretty. So I grew up with those kids from the age of, like kindergarten, really. Both of them are a year older than I am. My dad's a director, though, so I grew up around the film world. And my dad directed a film called Young Guns back in the day with a lot of those kids. Yeah, that was a good one. And he cast all, Emilio Estevez, Charlie, all these kids that we grew up with. And it's funny because when you're on a set, rarely do you call the director like Mr. Cain, blah, blah, blah. It was odd to see that happen, but it was great, and Dad kept those kids in line.
Well, having grown up in that environment, you, interestingly enough, even though you did some things at a younger age, sports was your thing. And a lot of people may not know that you were a free agent with the Buffalo Bills.
Yes, Bills, come on, Buffalo Bills fans, no? Yes, we have one. Yes.
We have an Iowan, Kyle Orton, who quarterbacked for them for a little while and did pretty well for them.
Kyle Orton's an Iowan. He's a good quarterback. Good quarterback. Buffalo, we've been in trouble. I was there with Thurman Thomas, Jim Kelly. I was there in the heyday. Got injured as a rookie, and suddenly I had to find something else to do. So I chose this.
Wow. Okay.
I'll tell a little story, though. I came back after starting to play Superman. I was maybe in my 2nd year, or even the 1st season, and I got to come back and be an honorary captain for a divisional championship game against Miami. So I got to go out there in my civvies in Buffalo with Jim Kelly and Dan Marino and the coin flip and the whole thing, and it was really amazing. And midway through the game, Andre Reed, who's now in the Hall of Fame, caught a little short out, just short of the first down, and got crushed, literally right in front of me. He stood up, he kind of wandered over next to me, didn't look at me, didn't do anything, was just trying to collect his wits, and then just turns to me and goes, how do you get into that acting thing anyway? And that's when I knew, okay, good. I'm glad I'm out. I can pretend to be anything.
Well, you didn't study acting, really. You were, I think people make fun of this degree. You were a history major in college, right?
Don't make fun of that degree. Absolutely.
What do you do with that? What do you do with that, right?
You become an actor. You become a football player. Honestly, I think any undergraduate degree that you get, it should be a Bachelor of Arts. I really do. I think you should have a chance to get a well-rounded education, and then anything you're going to do vocationally usually comes in grad school or elsewhere. So go ahead and be a history major. It's okay. I had buddies who were history majors that became doctors. They became everything. So I had a chance to go to business school. I didn't take that chance, but I had an opportunity to do so. It's just a well-rounded education. And the history still interests the heck out of me.
Well, certainly becoming Superman, you knew the history of Superman when you were cast in Lois and Clark. 88 episodes, that's a lot of television work in over 4 years. And I know I don't know about you, but I actually shed tears when that series ended because we wanted it to go on.
Well, we were scheduled to go for a 5th season, and we were picked up and we were coming back, and Terry got pregnant in between, and because of that, literally brought a doctor's note and said she can't shoot the next season because it would be detrimental to her health and the health of her unborn child. And so that was it. We were stunned because the last thing that happened was a baby showed up on our doorstep. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on. I want to know. So hopefully we'll get together and do a reunion closeout.
Wouldn't that be cool? Oh my God.
I would like that.
Well, watching you in that episode of Comic Book Man, and the host kind of declared that you made people care about Superman again. How did you feel about that? What did that mean to you?
That's a wonderful honor. It's a wonderful thing to hear. You know, there's a thing like the newest incarnation of Superman, the Man of Steel. It's obviously a very well-made film, and Henry did a great job. But the difference between that and the show that I did, Lois and Clark had a lot of humor and they had a lot of romance, and neither one of those two things were in the last incarnation of Superman. And those are things that I think that are wonderfully fun and kind of at the heart of Superman, in the sense that romance and that sense of humor. So I love doing that. I loved having a chance to do that and be a part of that. Honestly, Supergirl is coming out in October, and I do play Supergirl's foster father on that show. But that show has the same sort of feel as Lois and Clark. So I'm really excited to get that show out there and see how it's received, because it really has that same feel. I think people are going to care about Supergirl, you know, a lot more than they did from the one film based on the show.
It seemed to me that your Superman was deliberately less of a bumbling kind of fool. Your Clark Kent was less of a bumbling fool, and actually a pretty smart guy and a good journalist. But that was the intention, really, with your character, wasn't it?
Well, the whole thing for the way our incarnation was that Clark Kent was the character. That's the guy. And Superman is, you know, Clark Kent is who he is, and Superman is what he can do. So when he became Superman, it was so he could continue living as Clark Kent in anonymity, and then go out and do these wonderful things as Superman. But that was just one facet of Clark's personality, really. So Clark Kent was the main character. You know, in the things with Christopher Reeve, who was my Superman, by the way, growing up, and when I think of it, I think of him first. I understand what they were doing. You know, I get that they were trying to bumble him around, but I liked the George Reeves version of Clark Kent. If you go back and watch those, some of you might be old enough to watch them. I've seen them. Clark Kent's pretty cool, and he's a good guy. So it's kind of fun because it's back in the, you know, it's got that 50s feel to it, which was a different time. But that's more my Clark Kent character, was much more the George Reeves version, and my Superman was certainly of the Christopher Reeve version.
Your series progressed in a lot of different ways from after the first season, and it got really kind of complicated. And how did you feel as a writer, as a producer, and surely you probably had a lot of input into the writing of it, I'm assuming. How did you feel about how the show progressed and how the storylines progressed? Do you think that it got a little outrageous? I know there were some fans that kind of felt that way. What did you think? You
mean when I married a clone and she started eating frogs?
Yes.
Absolutely. You know, I wrote a couple episodes, and we had some input in what our characters were doing, but we really didn't have any power as to where things were going. I know people got upset that they got married, and I didn't. I wanted them to get married and start having kids, and so I feel responsible personally for Smallville. That was the show that I was trying to spin us into. And that would have been our spinoff. Our kid would have been raised in 4 days, and he was a grown man. Who knows? There were no rules, and I was kind of hoping we would get a chance to do that. You know, but we didn't really have any real strong input into the direction that things were going. That was the network. That was our producers. We would have our say as characters, but we really couldn't dictate to them what was going to happen at all. So I'm not responsible for the throne or the frogs or any of that.
So in your career, you've done many things. You've written, you've produced. Of course, during a time when cable really started to reach a peak, and Ripley's Believe It or Not, you produced that. Tell us how that came about and your role in that.
Well, you know, when you do a show like Lois and Clark and you don't have any power as far as, you know, where the show's going to go, you realize who does and who's able to sort of pull the strings, and it's wonderful to be able to be in that position. So Ripley's Believe It or Not, I always enjoyed the show. I like the strange and unusual, and they let me run with it. I said I would change it from the Jack Palance version where it was like, believe it or not. I was terrified when I was like, oh my God, I don't want to watch this. So I wanted to be more friendly, feel more like, you know, like the mummy, or like you're the curator of the strange and unusual. And I had fun. I like kind of giggled at the things that happened. I didn't laugh at the people. Sometimes I laughed at the people, but not often. But it was, I enjoyed it just like the audience did. So they let me make that show the way I wanted to make it. My company made that show. It was a lot of fun. And I wish we could I wish that was still going. And that was a lot of fun. And that's, you know, excuse me, in Hollywood, I mean, it used to be that you had to be either a film or a television actor. Then it sort of segued into you had to be a television actor to become a film actor. Johnny Depp, George Clooney. Then it became you just had to be on a reality show or do something ridiculous, and then you get a shot at a show. So it's always changing, and now you can do so many different things. So I like to host, I like to write, I like to produce, I like to direct. I'm on 2 different shows right now, 3 different shows right now. I got a movie that came out yesterday, Vendetta, if anybody.
Tell us about that. Tell us about Vendetta.
Vendetta is a rock'em sock'em, just tail-kicking action movie, revenge flick. My character ends up putting himself in jail to go get a guy that committed a serious wrong against him, and it's just bloody. And if you like those, which I do sometimes, it's a great fun ride. And like I said, it came out Friday, so you can get it on pay-per-view or it's in select theaters, but not that many theaters. But it's a worthwhile ride.
Well, terrific. We have some folks that have some questions, and let's get right to that. Gentlemen.
First of all, thank you for coming to Iowa. We really love you, Dean Cain. And my question is, with all the scripts that you get with either the TV series or the movies, what makes you decide that you want to do that, a specific show or movie?
Well, you know, it's funny. Sometimes people tend to think that actors are like sitting at home going, oh, I picked this one. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you're fighting to get for a role that you really don't even want, or there's something you really like and they don't even want to see you. And there's sometimes you hear there's a project like Avatar, and you're like, oh, I want to be in that, but you can't, you know, fight your way in. It's a weird process. So when I read a script, though, if I read a script and I like it, I'll do whatever I can to get into it. And if that means putting yourself on tape or going to have meetings or going auditioning or whatever, I have no ego when it comes to that. But usually it's just a story. You read the story. I like to read them like it's a book. If it catches my attention, if I really like a character, I'm in. If it fits in my schedule, there's a million different reasons why an actor may do a film. Money is another one. That's a big one, by the way. But you never know how a film's going to turn out. For example, a film like God's Not Dead. That was a small film, a very small film, and no idea that it was going to become the film that it was, and it was so well received and make so much money and get so many eyeballs on it. We had no idea. And it's really wonderful when that happens. You just don't know. So I just look for a good story, directors I've worked with before, actors that I've worked with before, people I admire, and a character that I want to play. That's really what it comes down to. And if it pays me a lot of money, that'd be great.
Thank you for making those Christian movies. We really appreciate it, Dean.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Cain.
Nice to see you again.
It's good to see you, sir. Once again, rocking Des Moines with your presence. That's excellent. Sort of a comment and a question. I want to say thank you for making my Mother's Day. She got some good information from a new church that she's been called to. So being able to see you and have this wonderful news, it's a great thing for her. The question I have for you, though, refers to God's Not Dead. I understand that you played that part and you got a lot of negative reviews. I think you did a wonderful job in that part, but I'm curious, being in that kind of character, how did you pull yourself together to be such, if you'll excuse me, a jerk off. Because I mean,
I think it's an accurate word.
I mean, I understood the character, and I've known people like that. But how does one as an actor bring yourself to be able to play a part like that and still feel good about yourself later?
We're just actors. We play pretend. That's what it is. You know, the funny thing about being an actor is actors love to watch people. And it's hard, but if you're a recognized actor, then people are wondering why you're staring at them. You're like, you know, why is Russell Crowe staring at me? It's so odd. But we love to people watch. And we pull facets of our own personality and facets of things we see from other people. And we pull these things, we put them together into performance. I know a lot of people like the character that I played in God's Not Dead, who was not a very nice guy, by the way. I mean, when the girl tells him he has cancer, he's like, well, good luck with that, I'm out of here, it's not our deal. It's pretty cold-hearted. But I know people who are thinking that, who would be thinking that, who might act differently, but that's what they're thinking, that's really what's going on. So it's not hard to play that character. I can put the character away in 2 seconds after I finish it. The character I played in Vendetta is so far from who I am, but it's a facet of my personality. I can understand it. There's times when you want to go there, or you can substitute it for something else and play it that way. The funny thing about God's Not Dead, it being the jerk that I was in the film, is my son goes to a Christian school, and so the whole school saw the film, and then one of his buddies turns to him and says, well, your dad's kind of a jerk. He was kidding, of course, because they know me at the school, but it was fun to play that character. It's fun to be in that. They're making a God's Not Dead 2, but I'm not in it. I'm not in it. I don't get to fight. That character doesn't get to get redeemed yet. But Ernie Hudson's in God's Not Dead too, so you can pester him for questions. If you have questions, talk to Ernie. He's an easy nut to crack. He'll tell you what's going on.
So you're saying there are narcissistic people in LA that you were able to watch and see that?
Amazingly enough, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Cain.
Thank you so much. And congrats to your mom.
How's it going?
It's great. Thanks for coming to Iowa. Thanks for coming to Des Moines. Hope you're enjoying your stay here. My question for you, kind of a background story. When I was about 10 years old, my mom brings home a newspaper article that says DC Comics is ready to kill Superman. And this is the days before internet. I thought for sure that Superman was dead and he was never going to come back. It wasn't until years later that we found out that it was because of the TV series. They wanted you and Lois to get married on the TV show at the same time that Superman and Lois got married in the comics. And so the only reason they killed off Superman in the comics was to buy some time so that the TV show could progress. My question for you, as somebody with a history major that appreciates history, how does it make you feel looking back knowing that your show and your role as Superman forever changed the timeline of the comic books and effectively changed the history of the Superman comics? Do you ever ponder that and say, wow, I had a part of that?
Absolutely. It's even when I first got the role, you know, just to know that I was going to be playing the most iconic superhero in American history was pretty amazing. It's also the kind of thing you can't understand. It's like, you know, if you put your hand in fire, it's going to burn. Well, if you've never stuck your hand in fire and ever been burned, you don't know what that means. And so it's impossible to explain to anybody or even to know what's going to happen. It's like the great unknown. Once we started doing the show, we were working with DC all the time, and then it just became work. I didn't think in terms of the history of the character or what's going to happen. You're just going to work every day. And it's fun. It was fun. And we were more than honored and thrilled, and it was a lot of fun. The internet was in its infancy back then, so it was interesting to see how that was sort of affecting what we might do or might not do. It was interesting. And DC was with us every step of the way, so it was great. It was great. It never felt like pressure. It just felt like fun.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'm Mr. Cain. I'm from West Des Moines, in the Special Olympics. You ever thought about doing any Special Olympic movies?
Well, I'll tell you what. When I was in college, we had the special. I went to Princeton University in New Jersey, and we would have a Special Olympics at Princeton every year, and it was an absolute blast. It was one of the most fun places I've been, and one of the most rewarding experiences I've had. Every year we would host it, and we'd have tons of fantastic athletes out there. I never thought I'd do a film about it, but that's definitely an interesting concept.
What was it like playing the villain and Scott Peterson?
Playing Scott Peterson was terrifying, actually. I turned it down 4 times because he wasn't very loved, you know, and to run around as that character, sort of to be connected to him in any way, shape, or form was really scary. Actually, I turned it down, and then I was afraid that, you know, if I went and shot it, that people would be chasing me with, burning brooms and pitchforks up and down the streets of San Diego. Fortunately, that didn't happen. But I use it now as a dating barometer. If I ever meet a woman who says, I loved you as Scott Peterson, I don't date her.
Just as you know, Mr. Cain, it was filmed in Illinois in a town called Bolingbrook. I'm from Chicago, and next to Romanville is Bolingbrook. And it's based on a true story.
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of that?
I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I went to high school at Romanville High School. Next to Romanville High School is Bolingbrook. That's where the Scott Peterson case started.
Oh, it did? See, I don't know
Yes.
that. I thought it was in
Bolingbrook,
Modesto.
Illinois.
Oh, okay. I thought it was in Modesto. I don't know. All I know is we were shooting that. Our first day of principal photography was day one of the pre-trial hearing. So we were watching the news every night, learning something new, and trying not to convict him before he was convicted. So it was a dicey proposition. We had to be very careful of what we said, and we never say guilty in the film, but he looks pretty guilty. Let's just say that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Hi.
Hi, Mr. Cain. I'm a huge fan of yours. A little nervous, but anyways. I like to follow you on Twitter. You're very open about your opinion stuff. I appreciate it. I don't always agree, but I always appreciate that you're sharing those things. Also love that you're a history major and that kind of thing. Can you kind of share a little bit about if you could have dinner with anybody in the world, who would you have dinner with and why?
That's a good question.
And what would you eat?
Is Kate Upton allowed to have? Can I put it with? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. That's too obvious, right? First of all, let me address the first part of Twitter. Yeah, I do post opinions and things all the time, and I think it's absolutely fine if you do or don't agree. If you can, I have no problem with disagreements. I love if somebody has a cogent argument and convince me otherwise. If someone has a better argument than mine, I'll modify my opinion. I'm not afraid to do that.
But I just respect that you put it out there like that.
Of course, it's hard not to sometimes, and I don't want to be preaching to people all the time or saying things, but there's things that I do want to comment on, and there's no reason to have to stay silent. People are always like, well, who cares what an actor says? And, the truth is, nobody has to, in any way, shape, or form, but I'm still a citizen like anybody else, and you can certainly voice your opinion. So if someone doesn't agree, so if you want to get into some Twitter stuff, we'll get into that anytime on there. And if you can convince me otherwise, I'll adopt your opinion. But I appreciate that you have that you get out. And,
What's your handle?
@Dean Cain.
Thank you.
And what was the second part of the question?
If you could have dinner with
Oh, yeah,
anybody in
that's
the world,
right.
who would you have dinner with?
Well, Kate Upton is up there. I mean, that would be fun. Living or anybody in history? Living. That's fair. Otherwise, it opens it up to a whole basket of things. Who would I have dinner with? That's a really
First of all, you're like a chef. I mean, you like to cook, right? So would you cook dinner for this person rather than take them out?
It depends if it's a he or she, really. It's really important. I am single, so I can...
You gotta answer her
Yeah, I
question.
know, that's a
Yeah.
tough one. Wow. I suppose I'd probably, it's kind of boring, but I'd probably take a world leader out, just to sort of pick their brain, maybe. Although Kate Upton really is a good fallback. I never consider, the weird thing about being in the position that I'm in is I often end up being at dinners and things. Like last night, Brandon Routh took me out to a restaurant here called Hawk. Does anybody know that? That was really good, by the way. And that was fun. I get the chance to do this all the time. I don't know who to say. I don't know who I would say. Jeez. Let's just go with Kate Upton. And the reasons are obvious.
I would pick you. So,
all right.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolute. Thank you.
I understand that as a single dad, you like to cook for your kid. Is that right?
Well, I have to, otherwise he won't eat, which is important. He's 15 now, and he's bigger than me. He's taller than me. That's odd for all you parents out there. When your child passes, you're like, wow. But he doesn't like to go out that much. I doesn't want to go out and sit in a restaurant. So I had to learn to cook, and I've become a decent cook. And he has very simple taste, though. So I cook for like a kid. I cook kid food, but it's very, very clean. Lots of the kid eats meat. Beef and chicken, and he doesn't like fish, and I don't really do it well, and it does kind of smell up the kitchen, as you know who cook. I mean, So yeah, I cook, but I have about 10 meals I can make for him. I think he's getting sick of them at this point, though.
Does he want to follow in your footsteps?
I do a show now called Hit the Floor, if anybody's familiar with that show. It's on VH1, it's a 1-hour drama, it's a lot of fun. But on the show, I play a professional basketball coach, and there's a dance team. And there are 14 girls from the ages of 18 to 24. They're gorgeous and they can dance their tails off. My son shows up to that set all the time. All the time. He won't visit me on anything else, but he shows up on that set all the time. He doesn't talk to me when he's there either. He sits with the girls and hangs out with them. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, So he shows up there. So I think he likes it for that. He sort of dipping his toe in the water. He's 15. He doesn't know what he wants to do. He's a big gamer. He plays a lot of video games. He's very good at it too. We have the E3 convention going on in Los Angeles this week. You're supposed to be 18 or over. I might be able to pull some strings and sneak him in there a little. He's fascinated by that stuff. So whether he wants to be an actor, whatever my son wants to do, I will encourage him to do it, do his best at it, enjoy it, and it doesn't matter to me. He doesn't seem to like football, which kind of hurts a little bit, but he doesn't want to play, and I'm fine with that. If he wanted to be a cheerleader, I'd be at every cheer practice game, away game. I wouldn't care. I just want to support my son and let him be whatever he wants to be.
Very good. Next up.
So I'm really excited for the new Supergirl show that you're in. And I guess as far as the show, with all the stuff you've done as far as writing, producing, directing, are you going to get any opportunities on the show to help out with any of those episodes?
Will I have a chance to write, produce, or direct on Supergirl?
Mm-hmm.
No. No. Greg Berlanti, who's now become master of the DC television universe, he's got that title all filled up. He's got Brandon's show, he's got Flash, he's got Arrow. Now Supergirl starts airing on CBS. I don't think there's going to be crossover to Supergirl because it is a different network. But I won't get the opportunity to do any of the fun stuff. I just get to be, Kara's stepfather. But I'm a scientist, so I could be in and out quite a bit in the storylines, and it's fun. I think Melissa Benoist, who plays Supergirl, is amazing. I think she's literally perfectly cast. She's going to bring back so much, I think, excitement, and she just does everything with a big smile on her face, and she's so pure and positive. She is going to explode, and it's so female empowering. The show is. I think all the girls are going to. I think right now, if there's 3 Supergirls in the audience, we come back here next year, there's going to be 55, and I think it's going to just sort of blow up. I sure hope so, because I think it's a really positive show, and I think she's fantastic. And boy, I do wish I was producing and writing out that's for sure.
And do you like you and Helen Slater and even Brandon? Do you guys like sit around and compare like flight stories that you all have been?
Well, there's a club. We go to a club. We have a clubhouse. We don't like to talk about it, but it's a clubhouse. It's up in the fortress. We don't want to get into it, but we share things.
They hang from the rafters and
we don't hang
show your
upside down.
style.
That's Batman. That's Batman style. By the way, how about Superman versus Batman? That's coming out in 2016, I hear, right? They're taking a long time to get that out. I don't know why, because it's got to be a really short thing. Superman, Batman, fight, boom, over, done. A couple guys with the Batman shirts are like, no. I know Batman's going to cheat. He's going to do something to him. It is going to be cryptic. It's going to be Batman. He's a very bad man. Very, very bad person. He's going to do some underhanded stuff. But Superman has to win that in the end. I mean, if not, then Brandon and I are going to start knocking on the doors of DC Comics and straighten some stuff out.
Absolutely. Next up.
Hey, how you doing? My family watched, Lois and Clark, like, I think it was Sundays or whatever was on, as a family when the TV was on, when I was like 5, in 93.
When you were younger, just say that.
The thing that I always tell everyone, like, when I'm having a conversation about childhood or anything, was that when Lois and Clark was on, this show's an hour. It's an hour long. I think, like, you know, everything at that point was a half hour for me. But I guess my question is, I've heard like all the stories about the long 20-year process they were taking to get the Superman movie made, and they were even planning on releasing a motion picture during Lois and Clark, which would just have been weird. I guess they're doing it with the Flash now, but were you guys hearing about them? You're like, they're gonna make a movie at the same time we're on, or like.
Yeah, we did hear about that. In fact, Nicolas Cage was slated at the time to play Superman. It was going to be the death of Superman. And he called me. He's an interesting character. He called me up and had some questions, and I could tell there were problems going on with it even then. There was a lot of things happening. I thought it would be interesting, but it would have been very strange at the time I was playing him on television to see a movie come out, because there was really no real strong connection to what we were doing, and it was a completely different kind of film. So that would have been very, very odd. There's no doubt about it. But you said something at the beginning, which I think is one of the greatest things that I could ever hear, and I hear it often, is that people grew up watching Lois and Clark. I know you were 5, and that hurts a little bit because I started it as 27, so we don't want to get there. But,
I'm 27 now, so.
I told you. Jeez. If I could laser you right now with my eyes. It's the greatest thing is to hear that you grew up watching it as a family. And that's one of the things that I think is sorely missing in television today. My son and I don't have a show that we, sat down and watched together. We don't have a show to bond like that over. And when people tell me that they did that with their mom, or it got them through high school, or whatever it did, I just find it amazing. People say, I sit there watching with my grandma, and they've lost their grandma, so the show still sort of holds them together, whatever. It's amazing to hear that, and it's one of the most rewarding things as an actor that you can hear. And honestly, I believe that Supergirl is going to be that kind of a show for another generation, which makes me excited to be any part of that now.
Was there ever any discussion with you about doing the movie? I mean, I know there was, when Tom Welling was doing Smallville, there was a huge fan push to have him play Superman in the movie. Was there ever a discussion with you? I mean, there were people that talked about it like on AOL back then when it was really hot, right?
Dial-up internet.
Dial-up internet, right?
Kids are going, what's dial-up internet? Yes, it was tough back in our day. We had to dial up, whatever. No, there was no talk about it at the time. The internet hadn't gained its force like that, and there wasn't anybody sort of pushing for that. And the film felt like something that was completely different than anything we were going to be doing. So there wasn't anything like that. By the way, Tom Welling never flew, right? Didn't that bother you that he never flew or never put the suit on? It bothered me. I was on the show. I tried to kill him. It was my character, by the way. But it did bum me out. I was hoping that they would go off, with him in the suit and the whole thing, but bummer, because you got to wear the suit to know the suit. You do. So I was kind of bummed at that. But that was a great
show. How did the fitting go for the suit back in the day?
Put on tights. That's it. I was like, that's it. There's nothing. There's blue tights with little footies. What's going on here? And then we started building the suit together. But that was we just wore tights. That's it, I got tights. These other guys get the bat costumes now. Those guys are getting ridiculous things.
Kevlar, right.
Kevlar, yeah. I gotta admit, it looks kind of cool too. But no, for me, it was just tights, and we just fuddled with the cape a lot and tried to figure out which cape worked best. That's it.
How long did it take you to learn how to fly from the rigging and do all that?
The flying, I'll tell you what, everybody was always like, I want to fly, I want to fly. I go, do you really? Okay. Think about it. And what I used to say to people is just find a stool or something at your house at the flat surface, with a small flat surface, and just lay across that. That's what it's like on the picks, because there's a pick at your hip and another pick on the other hip, and you hang there. So people would go up there to fly, and they look like this. I'm like, you really want to fly, right? Good luck. Terry was reduced to crying often when we were in the rigging because it's uncomfortable. Sort of cuts off the 2 quadrants of your body, because I had to wear the tights while being rigged, so
and you had to carry her a couple of times.
Well, in that case, you can't carry somebody while you're in the rigging because you're going to go top heavy. And you had to one arm forward, one leg back. It was all a balance thing. And fortunately, I was a good athlete, so I made it look relatively easy. But I love when someone else got the wires. I'm like, can I watch them do it? Because they, flying or taking off or doing anything, it's a very difficult thing, and it's something you have to work on and learn. But it's pretty cool. It looks better now. They get so much better at it now. And they even cheated on Supergirl a little bit. I have to scream and holler about this, because with her cape, we spent so much time dealing with the way the cape would go when you fly. There were guys with monofilament, like fishing wire and things, and trying to get things. And they're blowing this. They called it an air mover in my face. It's literally just. It's so loud. There's no way I could ever speak while flying because the little rocks would fly in my mouth. It was insane. But they digitized her cape, so she'll fly without it. The wind will go, and they'll digitize her amazing cape behind her. And I'm a little bitter about that.
Next up.
So like everybody else, I grew up watching The Adventures of Superman and Lois, my brother, my mom, my dad. So just that. But actually, I prefer you in, you did an episode of SVU, which was like the Terry Schiavo episode. So my question for you is, which one was creepier for you to play, Lacey Peterson or that episode?
You're a twisted one. You
Don't date me.
Yeah, don't date me. I'm already terrified. I got a little note in my butt back there. I'm like, that one. Playing different characters, like the character I played in SVU, it's so much fun. That's one of the things I enjoy doing, going on other shows and guesting and playing different characters, just because I love the shows, and they're great. The character, I think playing Scott Peterson was more creepy, because he was just so creepy. It was just so odd. He was so narcissistic, and it was so weird to watch all the interviews that he gave. And when I watched the interviews he gave, it was like being a bad actor, trying to stay on point, trying to stay on their talking points. It made me horrifically uncomfortable. Playing the character on SVU, he was so manipulative. He sort of believed what he was saying, believed he was right. It was easier to do that. And I got away with it on SVU too. One of the rare guys who got away with it. Yes! But you steal little bits and pieces from people who may be sort of controlling in a situation, a relationship situation. There are people that I know who are like that, who order the drink for you, even though you want something else. They'll say, no, you should have it like this. It's those subtle little things. That's one of the things as actors, you're always watching what people do, and that's a little controlling. I like it, I'll use it. And we are always stealing from real people. So I stole some of that from a real person, well, from a number of real people that I know, whose behavior in relationships I don't agree with, but I certainly copied it for that.
I thought you were very creepy in SVU.
Thank you. We'll be dating later. Okay. You've manipulated me into it. How'd that happen?
Hello.
Hi. Well, to help you out, I grew up with Bonanza, so but
Thank
my
you.
kids,
As
but
did
my
I.
kids grew up with your Lois and Clark stories. But in that same vein, as different characters that you've played, I want to know which one of your Hallmark movies was one of your favorite to do.
I have like 19 Hallmark movies, so I gotta think about that for. No, I love doing. So being a single dad, I want to do shows and films and projects that my son can come and visit me on. He can be a part of. He can watch and learn something from. He can be proud of his dad. I'm gonna make different films, but not everyone has to be a Hallmark movie. But I love doing those, and they're fun. And I have a thing for Christmas. I just have a thing for Christmas. I love Christmas. I love that time of year. I love the family getting together. One of the first episodes I wrote of Lois and Clark was, actually the first one I wrote was a Christmas episode. I just had to do it. And Christmas is for my family have always been like too many of us in too small a place, all over each other, but somehow it's wonderful. It's terrible, but it's wonderful at the same time. So the Hallmark movies, there was one I did that I think it was called 3 Little Gifts, where we were at this toy shop and we ended up adopting these 3 little kids. my dad adopted me, so I mean, I guess I have a little bit of an affinity toward that. So I have my biological, my birth mom, but my dad adopted me when I was 4, and it's a good thing he did, because I could have maybe gone down the wrong path very easily as a young, aggressive male. Without that male guidance, I may very well have. So it was great to sort of flip it around and play that character who didn't want the kids at first, who comes around and does, and those kids they're great. So that one, The 3 Gifts, was one of those that I really enjoyed, and I thought was a pretty special film.
Well, we thank you for continuing to play those roles of Bells, and hopefully you'll continue to do that. Thank you for being in Des Moines.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Come on up.
I got a question about the movie Lost. How long was you in the car shooting for, and was that very uncomfortable? And yeah, that was my question.
All right, if you haven't seen that film, there's a film called Lost, and my character works at a bank, and he, basically what happens is he inside job, pulls a heist, and robs the bank, and thinks he gets away with it, and so probably 85 to 90% of the film, I'm in a car, driving, trying to get from A to B, being chased, but everything takes place with me in the car. So I was in the car for a long time. We were in the desert, 110 degrees, no humidity, which was awesome. But because you guys have humidity here, and I don't like it. We don't have any in the desert, so that was good, but it was blazing hot, and there was 3 of us in the car. There was myself, the camera, well, 4 of us. Myself, a cameraman, a sound guy, stuff behind the seats, and the director. And we were in the car for days, and I was just driving all around the desert, doing scenes with someone else on the phone. It was like, as an actor, it was like a great acting experiment, I guess, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It was no fun. I mean, it was fun afterward when I watched it. It was horrible while we were shooting because it was very uncomfortable. But it was a very, very cool movie. You get a chance to see it, check it out. It's called Lost. The weird thing was it came out while that series Lost was on the air. It's like, you're in Lost, the series? I don't see it. I'm like, no, I'm not. It's a movie. It's just a movie. But I appreciate the question. Thank you.
You could have given it a different name, right?
Yeah, but he was lost.
Yeah. Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
So I'm in college right now, and
Congratulations.
Thanks.
I like your shirt, by the way.
Thanks, no problem.
She's got the S on. That's good.
So, it's like the perfect time for me to be traveling right now, like to go anywhere I want to. And I'm sure as an actor, you've gone to a lot of places around the world. Where would be a really good place to go and just see something?
That's a great question. One of the great things about being an actor is you literally get to go everywhere. I have been to all but 5 of the lower 48 states, the contiguous 48 states in the U.S., and haven't been to Alaska. So other than that, I've been everywhere in the U.S. I've filmed in Mexico, Africa, Vietnam, the Philippines, Australia, kind of everywhere. If I were a young, beautiful college girl, pretty much you can go anywhere, by the way. I live in Spain. I have a home in Spain. I've had a home there for 15 years. My son's mother is from there. Europe is a lot of fun. It's great. But one of my favorite places ever to visit is Australia. Australia is amazing. It's unbelievable. So I would tell you either to go to Europe or Australia. Those would be my 2 choices. I think you're very safe in either spot, but those are the 2 places that I would say without a doubt. You're going to go this summer?
Probably next summer.
Next summer. Wow.
What part of Spain is your house?
I actually live in a little island called Ibiza, or Ibiza, or Ibiza, or however people pronounce it in a million different ways. It's known as the nightclub capital of Europe, and I never go out, okay, ever. But I'm usually home with my son, and my friends will all come visit. I get groups of friends coming out. Actually, I have friends go over and stay at the house when I'm not there.
Do you rent it out?
I never rent it out. I only give it to my friends.
Okay.
So if we were friends, well, college girls, that could be a lot of trouble. College girls in Ibiza, I've seen that before. I've seen that before. It's not a horror movie. It's a party movie. Yeah, there are clubs that open in Ibiza at 8 o'clock in the morning. And not to say, I've never been.
How cool would it be to do Airbnb at your house in Spain, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Could ask a premium.
No, I wouldn't. I can't rent out my house. My friends go there, stay there all the time. So become friends, go stay at my house.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hello.
Hi there, my name's Samantha.
Hi, Samantha.
And I actually grew up with Christopher Reeve as Superman, which, there's a lot of different...
Same as me.
Yes. And I know that watching Lois and Clark, it was a nice segue between the movies because you and Terry had like the same type of relationship as Margot and Christopher Reeve did. And, then Smallville came along and it's like totally new. And I'm like, it's good, but it's not the same. But my question is, it's been several years since Lois and Clark now, and how do you?
It's been 18 years.
I said 7.
I just saw it. I saw it on Twitter this morning. People know more than I do. They're like 18 years ago today, I think, the last episode aired. I was like, who knows that? That's awesome. So I learned something. So I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. How do you? Because it's obviously, you know, people remember you for that. It's very, and it's an iconic role, and it'll hopefully be with you forever, which, you know, is a positive thing. But what do you do internally? Because you've obviously done several things since then. Your life doesn't stop at the end of that. What do you do to keep going? Does that, you know, to still take that positive energy from people, but, you know, kind of saying, you know, I've done these other things too.
No, I actually truly believe I am Superman. So
I have to say my wife transferred her fantasy from Christopher Reeves to you, so I didn't let her come today. I just want you to know that. All right.
Shame on you. You know, so as an actor, you always want to play different roles. To be known as something, to play an iconic role and to be associated with that role forever, I think it's fantastic. It's not something that I've ever shied away from. It's not something I've ever had a problem with. Clearly, I've done 100 and something movies, and I've got, you know, 3 TV shows on now, and all that. I don't mind that at all. To be, listen, if everywhere I went, people were like, there goes Scott Peterson. I did not like that so much. That creepy guy from SVU. Hi. So to be called Superman, that's great. I don't mind that at all. You know, we do it too. You know, people in the industry, you know, you see somebody, you're like, oh, there goes Ross from Friends. You know, you wouldn't go like, sometimes you'd say David Schwimmer, but you know him as Ross or Joey or whatever. That happens, and we all do it, and I don't have a problem with that at all. If you get to that place where you've played such an iconic character that you're known as that person or part, you know, Captain Kirk or whatever it happens to be. It's not like William Shatner hasn't worked since then. You know, it's amazing. So I love it, I embrace it, and as long as it doesn't stop me from working, we're all good.
Dean Cain, everybody, thank you all for coming out.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for coming.